Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. We are following some breaking news. After a trial we brought you in Davenport, Iowa, the judge in the Cristhian Bahena Rivera case has agreed to delay sentencing for the convicted murderer. It was set to happen tomorrow. Bahena Rivera convicted of first-degree murder for the death of Mollie Tibbetts. She was a University of Iowa college student who went missing during an evening run back in the summer of 2018. Her body discovered weeks later in a cornfield. Well, now the delay in his sentencing hearing comes after his defense team filed a motion for a delay and a new trial. The basis, they say, is newly discovered evidence. They say someone else, an inmate, has confessed to the crime. And there's an allegation they're making also. They're saying that prosecutors failed to disclose another investigation that was going on in the summer of 2018 when Tibbetts disappeared. So tomorrow's hearing will now be a hearing only on the defense motion to try to compel prosecutors to turn over evidence about that other investigation, something that is separate and apart from Mollie Tibbetts' disappearance and that investigation that was part of this instant case. So we're going to continue following this one, bring you all the latest developments as we learn them. But that is the big breaking news we're following right now. Let me bring in criminal defense attorney Lada Urezia to help me do some legal analysis here. Okay, Lada, so what the defense is saying in these motions is that there's an inmate they have who's prepared to testify to the court that this inmate overheard another inmate talking about killing Mollie Tibbetts. So here we have a hearsay problem, don't we? Can you give us a little bit of context when we're talking about this coming right on the eve of sentencing for a defendant who's set to go away for a long, long time for a crime of first-degree murder, and yet somehow this evidence is suddenly coming up? What do you think about this, please?
I think it's imperative. It's important for the defense to bring it up. I mean, imagine if they didn't, if they found out about this and they didn't bring it up in a courtroom, especially right before sentencing. It's the right thing to do. They have to ask for a delay, and it's good that the judge did delay it. Regardless of whether it's hearsay, I mean, they would probably need some time to investigate it. They can probably first talk to the first inmate who overheard another inmate, and then they can eventually, hopefully, through their investigation and through some discovery process with the law enforcement and the prosecution, possibly get to the inmate who made that claim. Now we don't even know if that person is ever going to confess and if it's even true, but it's worth an investigation, and it's definitely worth a request for a delay.
Sure. I'm with you. The defense, they have to do it. The prosecution, they are holding strong to their legal theory, the story that they got the right person. Absolutely. They're unwavering with all this. And I want to go back in time to the trial, if I can play a clip now. This is where one of the prosecuting attorneys was cross-examining the defendant. And here he's talking about how he never told police about these other two men that supposedly invaded his home and then forced him to drive his car and drop off Mollie Tibbetts' body in a cornfield.
You never mentioned two other men. Is that true?
Correcto.
Correct. You told Officer Romero that you were angry at Mollie Tibbetts. Is that true?
Creo que sí.
I think so.
You agree that you saw Mollie Tibbetts on 385th, correct?
Sí.
Yes.
On July 18th of 2018, correct?
Sí.
Yes.
You also indicated to Officer Romero that Mollie Tibbetts became angry with you. Is that correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
That Mollie Tibbetts threatened to call the police. Is that correct?
Correcto.
Correct.
You never mentioned two other men to Officer Romero. Is that correct?
Sí.
Yes.
Right, so the story about the two other men, the whole story about the home invasion, them forcing him to drive, all of that, leaving him there at the cornfield after, dumping her body. That was all stuff he waited to share when he was on the stand. So the prosecutor, I thought, Lada, he did a pretty decent job drawing out the fact that nobody heard this story, all the court dates and everything that happened in between the time he was brought in for questioning until trial. He never, ever mentioned these two other men until he was on the witness stand. What do you think about this? I mean, we know this new information's coming out supposedly from some inmates in the jail, but what about all of the other damaging evidence? What about the confession that was suppressed? What about her blood in his trunk, him admitting to having to struggle with her, admitting he thought she was hot, admitting she was, scared of him and said she was going to call the police, all of that. I want to really give our audience some perspective here, even though this is some breaking news here. What about all the other facts that were established in court?
Clearly, all those facts were enough for a jury to convict him. Those facts aren't going to disappear. They're there. I mean, we've got his statement. We've got him testifying and being cross-examined, and he's admitting to a lot of these issues, a lot of these things that he didn't tell the officers. Now, was there an explanation for that? Clearly, whatever the explanation was, the jury didn't buy it and found him guilty. Now, we know that this defendant's story changed. Initially, he had said he didn't remember what happened. And then he testified and pretty much remembered what happened and explained what happened, but it was something that he'd never told the officers. But again, at the same time, he did stand strong saying that he didn't kill her. He was never admitting to killing her at the trial. And he was claiming that someone else did. And this tip, whatever it may be, whether reliable or not, seems to be consistent with his testimony. And it's tough to ignore it. Now, it may not be enough at the end for the judge to give him a new trial, but as part of the legal process, it's something that has to be brought to the court's attention, and we have to go through the motions and make a decision accordingly.
Great points. Zlata Uretsian, criminal defense attorney in Los Angeles, California. Thank you so very much for that analysis. You're going to stay with us